excuse to discriminate against LGBT people, as sexual orientation and gender identity are not federally protected classes. Fuck! So this all came about because Hobby Lobby decided that it didn't want to have to cover emergency contraceptive.
You have to read these cases with a very careful reading, being able to read between quite a lot of lines to draw these conclusions. What could do this? Oh, sure, it could do that. It could do lots of things, unless we remember that what's going to happen when someone's claiming that this case protects them is that it's going to be litigated. So there's going to be one side that'll make this dubious claim that you seem to imagine is just going to this floodgate of claims. They're going to show up in court and they're going to say one thing, and then the people are going to respond, the judge. In a lot of these cases, they dismiss it out of hand. The person's not stated a claim for relief, and then you have a whole trial. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So you can sit here and imagine all these hypotheticals, and the response to that is, wait to see if any of them arise. And if they do, then you can deal with those when they arise.
Like Plan B and Ella, and IUDs. Their reason for this is their belief that these contraceptives cause abortions, and they have religious objections to abortion. The problem with that argument is that it's totally wrong, which means that Hobby Lobby won a case despite the fact that their arguments were incorrect. So here's how the female reproductive system works in conjunction with...
You apparently don't understand how law works. Appellate courts aren't generally in the habit of determining facts. Whatever's in the record is what they're required to be stuck with. They're not experts in science, and they're not in a position to go around calling in experts to correct the record. They have to take the record as it appears when it goes through litigation. More importantly, though,
contraceptives, and everybody get ready to go back to middle school human biology class. Let's start with some terminology. What is an abortion? An abortion is the termination of a pregnancy before an embryo or fetus is viable. If a pregnancy is terminated with a viable fetus...
Before an embryo or a fetus is viable. I believe an embryo is something that you get after you have a fertilized egg, right? That's an embryo, isn't it?
Then that's called a birth. If the fetus dies in utero, that's called a stillbirth. Okay? Okay, so what is a pregnancy? A pregnancy is the implantation of a fertilized egg. Before the implantation, there's no pregnancy.
Well, that may well be true, but that's not their argument. They're not arguing about pregnancy and this, that, and the other. They argue this is tantamount to abortion in the sense that it is their view of the matter, right or wrong, that the relevant stage there is not when the egg magically attaches to the uterus. It is when the egg is fertilized. That is when the whole chain of events begins, and that's where life starts. Now, I know you object to this, but you don't get to actually imperialize over the conversation and tell them, I'm sorry, you looked at your holy scriptures and you have the wrong opinion, and because of that, you don't have a case at law in a country that says we protect religious freedom. That's just, it evaporates for some particular reason. Because you happen to disagree with their definition, and you claim that the relevant stage is not this couple of days before the egg implants, but only after it implants. That's where it all really gets going, which is a bit strange, given something you said later.
It's just a fertilized egg. And if you're someone who thinks I'm just arguing semantics, then consider in vitro fertilization, in which conception takes place in a culture media.
And when they start arguing, when Hobby Lobby starts saying something like, well, yes, that is true, that in that petri dish, there you have a human life, and we're now being forced to pay for the destruction of that, and we object to it, then that's going to be relevant. But it isn't. They're not arguing that.
Is the petri dish pregnant? No. So fertilization...
That's not the question. Is that a human life is the question. That's when the Hobby Lobby thinks, yes, rightly or wrongly, that's what they believe. And one of the things is the court doesn't get to go around determining whether or not it's correct for a religious person to believe a particular thing based on what they understand their religion to be telling them. I mean, what kind of society do you imagine where people believe in something that you think is silly, and that is silly, and then the government says, well, the government comes up and says, oh, no.
You might have saved yourself a great deal of torment by yielding at the beginning. You do, however, have a choice. You can live out your life in misery, held here. This is your last chance. The guards are coming. Don't be a stubborn fool. Now, Mimi.
I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Religious Person.
You are accused of heresy against doctrine. Do you wish to retract your claims?
I do not.
Then we will proceed. 3 months ago, you circulated a study criticizing what you called resistance to truth, once again disputing doctrine. You are reckless and irresponsible, and you are a destructive influence to our society. But it is not too late for you to redress the damage you have done. Disavow your claims, acknowledge your mistakes, and this ministry will show you leniency.
We've seen societies where people aren't given this breathing space in their religions. They never work well.
Does not a pregnancy make. Pregnancy occurs when a fertilized egg implants itself. This is supposed to occur in the uterus. If it implants elsewhere, then it is an ectopic pregnancy and must be avoided.
This would be remotely interesting if Hobby Lobby's position was removing pregnancies is wrong. Clearly they don't think that, because giving birth is a way of removing a pregnancy, and they seem to be perfectly fine with that. Theirs is, when does life begin, which you don't know any better than anybody else, and neither does any other neither does any scientist know when life begins. Because of the following timing problem. If you look this up on Wikipedia, you'll find the following explanation, which is a fairly standard one. The most commonly used event to mark the initiation of pregnancy is the first day of the woman's last normal menstrual period, and the resulting fetal age is called the gestational age. This choice is a result of a lack of a convenient way to discern the point in time when the actual creation of the baby naturally happens.
As it is a medical emergency that risks the female's life. So, now that we have brushed up on what constitutes a pregnancy and what constitutes an abortion, let's talk about emergency contraceptives and IUDs. Emergency contraceptives are just amped up birth control pills. They have all the same hormones, just higher doses of them, so that they may prevent fertilization or ovulation after unprotected sex or the failure of some other form of contraception. That's it. As for IUDs, they prevent fertilization by killing sperm. If some sperm manage to survive the IUD and an egg gets fertilized, the IUD can prevent implantation. Therefore, since neither emergency contraceptives nor IUDs cause the destruction or rejection of a fertilized egg after implantation, that are known as pregnancy, then they are not abortifacients. They're not. As I've already pointed out,